Welcome to our virtual wintry walk, which will take us through Wrack Woods, over the bridge of Alba, through Montcoffer Woods and back through Macduff Distillery to the beginning. We begin our walk in the main car park for Duff House and head towards the wooded area. If we stop at the 5 gates before entering the woods, turn around and look back, we get a glimpse of the house through the trees. Duff House was designed by the architect William Adam for the first Earl of Fife, William Duff. It was built between 1735 and 1740, and the original design was to be much grander, as can be seen from this illustration. Unfortunately, it was never fully completed due to a dispute over the cost of materials. The argument was said to have been so great that the stress of it caused the death of the architect, and the first Earl never actually resided here because he was so upset by the whole experience. The house did have an east wing built onto it, though this wasn't added until 1868, and it wasn't part of the original design, as its purpose was to provide more bedrooms for all the guests, the main part of the house being rather short of extra bedrooms. The east wing was destroyed by a bomb during the Second World War, and some of the damage caused by the shrapnel can still be seen on part of the house today. Duff House is now in the care of Historic Environment Scotland, and a visit to their website is recommended to find out more information about the history of the house. We now go through the gates and take the path immediately on our left and into the woods. At this time of year, the woodland floor becomes a carpet of snowdrops, which you can see are just beginning to emerge here. These are among the first flowers to appear in the year, and the temperature only has to rise slightly above freezing for the snowdrops to push their way through the soil. Their buds have a hard tip at the end to enable them to break through frozen soil, and the sap contains a special type of antifreeze to stop them being damaged by frost. There are about 20 species of wild snowdrop, but over 1,000 varieties have been cultivated over the years by gardeners and enthusiasts. Snowdrops will occasionally hybridize with other varieties naturally though. We might spot a couple of red squirrels chasing one another through the trees here. They don't hibernate and will begin mating on calm and sunny winter days from January onwards, having a litter of kittens in March. Healthy squirrels, with a good supply of food, can have a second summer litter in June or July. During the autumn, they'll forage for hazelnuts, acorns, and other nuts and seeds to store in various locations to see them through the winter months. But they do then have to remember where they've hidden all the food. If we take a slight detour from the main path and follow the track and up the steps on our right, we'll come to the ice house, which was the fridge for Duff House. Many of the estates throughout Scotland would have had one of these, which were introduced from France during the 17th century. The ice would probably have been collected locally, possibly from the River Devon, but it was also taken from Star Loch, a small pond that used to be at the top of the Hill of Doon. Entries in the gardeners' diaries from the 19th century give accounts of carts being taken up the hill to collect the ice. Once collected, the ice would be packed with straw at the base of the ice house. If the ice was of good quality and was properly packed, it could last up to 3 years before it needed to be changed again. As we approach the Mausoleum, we'll see the leaves of this plant beginning to emerge, which has the unusual name of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. I think this name is used to describe the colour variations of the flowers. One of its other, more apt names is early flowering borage. It is a member of the borage family, and it does indeed flower very early on in the year. Although it's not a native plant, it was introduced to Britain from Turkey in the 1800s. It's not often found in northern Scotland, so it's quite unusual to see it here, and this patch doesn't appear to have spread any further than the small area that it covers here. The Mausoleum, believed to be on the site of an ancient monastery belonging to the Carmelite order of monks, was built in 1790 by the second Earl of Fife, who is said to be so proud of his Scottish ancestry that he had several cartloads of soil taken from Banff to the grounds of a house he was having built in London, so that he could say he resided on Scottish soil. There's a very interesting video available on YouTube with more information about the Mausoleum. The woodland floor here is covered with this plant, dog's mercury, which is an indicator of ancient woodland. In spring, the plant produces small clusters of inconspicuous flowers. It has a foul, decaying smell, and this, along with the fact that every part of the plant is highly toxic, gives rise to its name dog. In earlier times, the word dog would often prefix plant names to indicate a lesser variety or a species without scent. In this case, it's referring to the poisonous properties of the plant. About half a kilometre from the Mausoleum, on the left-hand side of the track, we'll see a large mound of earth with the remains of a folly on top. This is Mount Carmel. The mound is man-made, and the purpose of it is unclear, though it's believed that the monks from the Carmelite monastery may have built it. One tale suggests that when the monks did anything wrong, they had to carry a cup of earth and tip it out here as punishment for their wrongdoings. Looking at the size of the mound, they either used a very large cup or they did a lot of things wrong. There are jays here, and although they're the most colourful member of the crow family, they're actually very shy woodland birds, so you often only catch fleeting glimpses of one as it flies from one treetop to another. Usually it's the harsh screeching call that gives its presence away. Jays eat hazelnuts and acorns and will catch thousands of them during the autumn, so that they've got enough to eat during the winter months when there's very little food available. They bury each seed individually in different places and, like the red squirrel, have to remember where they stored their food. Any nuts that aren't found by the jays may grow into future trees as they bury them at just the right depth to allow germination to take place. We reach the impressive Bridge of Alba, which was constructed in 1772 over the gorge of the River Devon to link the Duff House family property on either side of the river, and to allow the second Earl of Fife to take his carriage over the river whenever he went to London, as the only other way of crossing the river at that time was by ferry. We may spot a number of birds on the river here, like this grey heron waiting patiently to catch its next meal. We leave the bridge and follow the main track uphill, which will lead us along a quiet minor road. We turn left at the end of the road and immediately left again to follow a grassy track that takes us along the edge of Montcoffer Woods. There's a variety of fungi growing in the woods here, like this birch polypore, which is growing on a dead birch tree. It's also known as razor strop fungus because over time it becomes leather hard, and in the past people would use the fungus to polish or strop the blades of old-fashioned razors after sharpening them. As we emerge from the woodland, we can see Banff Bay, and we get a glimpse of the town in the distance. Throughout its history, Banff has been visited by some notable figures, including one Robert Burns, and the poet Lord Byron spent his childhood summers here, as Banff was the hometown of his mother. After following the path through Macduff Distillery, we make our way towards the road bridge. The Hill of Doon is on our right, and the structure on top of the hill is the Temple of Venus, which was designed by the architect William Adam and built in 1737 as part of the Duff House development. The building originally contained a statue of Venus, but this was removed in 1907 after the family had gifted Duff House to the towns of Banff and Macduff. The hill is covered in gorse, and although it's at its best in May when the yellow coconut-scented flowers are in full bloom, gorse usually has some flowers present all year. These photographs were taken in January. It's a plant of scrub habitat and is often destroyed due to its spreading nature, but it's actually a very valuable wildlife habitat, the thorny structure providing safe nesting places for a number of birds, such as linnets and yellowhammers, which are sadly both now in decline. Before being bridged, the dangerous and unpredictable River Devon had to be crossed by ferry. The first bridge, completed in 1765, was swept away 3 years later. The seven-arch bridge that exists today was designed by John Smeaton and was completed in 1779. This photograph shows the original drive to Duff House, which was open to everyone to walk through. All that remains of the two gatehouses shown here is the one above the Co-op car park. The building attached to this gatehouse was the gardener's cottage, and the path in front of the house led to Duff House Gardens, now Early Gardens. The drive would have continued along what is now the bypass. The bypass, or new road, didn't exist until 1965, when it was built directly over the top of the original drive. Collie Lodge, which sits in what is now St Mary's car park in Banff, was originally the north lodge to Duff House, and the north entrance to the house was directly opposite, pretty much the same as it is today. The cobbled area in the middle of the car park, seen here, is all that remains of the original edging of the drive. We've reached the end of our walk, and we would head back down the main drive to the car park where we started. Thank you for joining me on this virtual tour, which takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to complete when we do the walk for real. It's a lovely walk to do at any time of the year, as there are different things to see and to talk about depending on the season. Hopefully, you'll be able to join us in the future. Thank you.